This is the briefing for Friday, June 2nd. Well, we certainly had a breakout in today's trading, and it appears that at least some of the internals are beginning to support that breakout. So hopefully we'll be out of this rotational pattern that we've been in for quite some time. I want to start tonight with a little bit longer term outlook. This is a weekly chart of the spiders. And I think this is pretty reflective. You can see the rotational pattern that we've been in for quite some time, really going all the way back to September of last year. So you can see the rotational pattern. You can see the pauses that we've experienced right at the upper extreme, right around this 418 area. And then, of course, in yesterday's trading, we traded above that 418 area, and then today had follow through as well. Now, volume on the spiders fell off somewhat, but the number of 52-week highs minus the number of 52-week lows expanded pretty dramatically. This was it's a small move in terms of the chart, but it's a pretty dramatic move. And then, of course, breadth expanded and expanded pretty dramatically as well. I want to go back to a shorter term chart right now and look at, this is the spiders and this is the Qs. This is the open today. You can see the gap open. We didn't have a gap open in the Qs. In fact, it looked like the Qs were going to begin to sell off, but then they rallied and then paused for the rest of the day while the spiders just continued the rally. It was quite amazing. You can see NYSE breadth was positive over 2,000 shares, and the same thing with the NASDAQ, positive over 2,000 shares as well. I'm surprised the NASDAQ didn't follow through with more of a move in terms of price as well. But going back to the weekly chart, I want to switch this now to the Qs. And you can see here the Qs have really broken out, or the NASDAQ has broken out above this high. Next resistance area for the Qs is going to be the 371 area. And then above that is going to be somewhere around the 408 to 410 area. Actually, if I remember correctly, it's about the 410 area that was support at one point in time. Now it's resistance. So now in the Qs, support is coming in at the 334, 335 area. That's a really important area. Important to notice, though, is that volume has dropped off in the Qs also. So it dropped off in the spiders and it's dropped off in the Qs as well. And then looking at the IWM for the Russell, you can see that it has been in a rotational pattern for quite some time. Then going back all the way to March of this year, you can see the rotational pattern right here, pretty close to the lower extreme. And then, of course, it appears that it has broken out to the upside. It closed at the high of the day. Suggests the Russell may want to go higher in trading on Monday. So it's going to be very, very interesting. Now to look back at the daily charts, this is the rotational pattern at the upper extreme of this rotation. And you can see then we even had a couple days of rotation right around this upper extreme. And then, of course, the breakout in today's trading. So it's important now that we do not retrace back. Now, we did have a breakout, we had a retest, but now it's time for the index to go pretty dramatically. In terms of the Qs, same thing is happening. It is in vertical development. Now, one thing to note I noticed here is that if you look at this move here, this rally right to the high there, and then follow with volume, you can see that volume is basically increasing in the Qs right to the high of Tuesday. I think that's Tuesday's high. Yes, Tuesday's high. So, but then you can see what happens as we begin to move higher above Tuesday's high. Volume is falling off pretty dramatically, which gives me a little bit of concern in terms of whether there's enough fuel in the gas to see significant follow through in what we saw in today's trading. In the Russell has broken out of this area of rotation, and it has broken out on good volume. So a little bit of discrepancy between some of the indices and their internals, but certainly the Russell was on fire today. And then, of course, the NASDAQ was more subdued, but it has been on fire previously. And then, of course, the spiders were moving pretty dramatically as well. In terms of overbought and oversold, we have reached the point of being extremely overbought in the NYSE and in the NASDAQ. So what's going to be key for Monday, and I want to cover this pretty dramatically, is going and looking at what's happening with breadth. Now, longer term subscribers understand that this is a pretty high percentage of success rate in looking for potential divergences that signal some type of pause or counter trend rotation. So the move now is up. You can see this rally from the last 2 days. So what I'm going to be looking for on Monday is if we do make higher prices and breadth is weaker than it was today, and you can see it was 2073 in the NYSE and 2042 in the NASDAQ. If it's weaker, then that's going to suggest the potential for some type of a pause or some type of counter trend rotation. And we know that markets run and pause in all degrees of time. Run, pause, run, pause, run, pause. So we might get a greater degree time and price pause, just as this was, or it may be just another pause to work off some of this extreme overbought condition that we're at as of the close in today's trading. So I'm going to be watching breadth very carefully Monday at the open, and that's going to be very, very important in terms of whether we go higher. Now, with 2,000 shares positive in breadth in both of the indices, it certainly does not preclude breadth from expanding even more. So we could see this go even higher, assuming that the news that hit the market today in terms of the debt ceiling being lifted by both the House and the Senate, and that the employment numbers that came out at 8:30 Eastern time this morning were pretty strong numbers. So it's going to be interesting to see whether the internals can continue to confirm what's happening with the market. Now, if you remember, really for the last couple of weeks, every time we've had a breakout, I've warned that it was not confirmed by the internals. The internals were not supporting the move, and we certainly got rotations back down. But in this case, if we do see a continuation of a breakout and we do see the internals continuing to expand, then I think we're looking at a valid breakout. But if the internals collapse on Monday, even in light of slightly higher prices, I think that's going to be another warning flag, and potentially we'll see some type of rotation back down. Keep in mind that what was resistance is now support, and it's going to be very important that we hold above those levels. Now, we closed pretty close to the high of the day in all of the indices. I think the Russell did close at its high today. So that should give us an indication that there should be some follow through. But the internals, if there is follow through Monday, the internals need to confirm that move. Otherwise, expect some type of pause or rotation back down to work off that overbought condition. Now, the other concern I have is in terms of volume. Now, this is Wednesday's volume. I don't know what happened. This all of a sudden happened right at the close. So it happened in the NASDAQ also. I'm not sure what happened there, but you can see volume has fallen really back into range. So there was not excessive volume in today's trading. NASDAQ was really down in total volume as well. Looking at the NYSE shares trading above their 50 and 200-day moving averages, you can see it exploded, and that made me feel pretty good about the move that we saw breaking out today in the indices. In terms of the S&P 500 percentage above their 50 and 200-day moving averages, you can see it exploded as well. That gives me greater comfort in terms of what I'm seeing in this rally. And the same thing with the Russell. Russell percentage above 50 and 200-day moving averages was substantially higher. So Now, one day does not a trend make. One day does not a breakout secure. So we're going to have to see what happens the first part of next week, anticipating the potential, since we're overbought, for some type of a pause. Uh, and we just have to analyze that pause as it happens, or additional follow through. And that's going to be the case for the first part of the week. Going to be very important if we're really on track now in breaking out to potentially test the all-time highs. It's going to be important to see the market follow through, and especially to see the internals continue to confirm price development. Have a great weekend, and I will pick this back up on Monday.